Now to a growing problem facing high schools and universities around the world, an artificial intelligence software called ChatGPT.
Over the last year, we've all been constantly bombarded by new AI programs. We've got ChatGPT from OpenAI, Meta AI from Meta, Google Gemini, and many more. During this time, it seems like anything that a computer does is now being branded as artificial intelligence.
You can't do anything these days without encountering a company that's promoting its new, pointless AI feature or some crappy-looking AI-generated artwork when they could have easily just paid an artist to make the exact same thing, but way better.
The onslaught of every tech company racing to implement some half-assed AI feature to artificially pump those stock prices. You can't escape some random AI feature on some random website that you never would have thought would need it.
ChatGPT, Bard, and Bing all offer free AI that can generate a college application essay in seconds, and it's sparking a growing debate. Are these apps giving students a helpful leg up, or an outright way to cheat?
There's something about that feels wrong to me. I don't understand why we're in such a rush to replace all of the work that humans have done.
A family is grieving after the tragic loss of a 14-year-old high school freshman. They say that young man took his own life back in February after an obsessive relationship with an AI chatbot.
If you're watching this, then it's too late. Robots have taken over everything. They've taken over everything. I don't even know what to do. It's the end. It's the end. Every single piece of media, book, movie, TV show that talked about robots taking over, they were true. They were real. We should have listened. We should have had more concern. I think I might be the last one. I'm so scared. If you're watching this, maybe there's hope, maybe there's none. I don't even know if this is gonna make it out there, but there is no more humanity. There's no more mankind. There's no more human connection. Robots have taken over. No, really. They have. Let me explain. Here's what I mean when I say that robots are taking over the world. Let's look at some numbers, shall we? 77% of companies use AI today. AI is projected to contribute $15.7 trillion to the global market in 6 years. The AI market has grown 33% since the start of 2024. It is estimated that AI will eliminate 85 million jobs by the year 2025. So next year, 40% of Asians use AI today. That's nearly half of the Asian population of the entire planet Earth. 56% of customer service jobs are now AI. 83% of business owners report that AI is a priority to them. Is it paying their employees or is it using an AI? I guess the numbers speak, don't they? 97% of business owners think that ChatGPT help improve things. What are these things that ChatGPT is improving? I don't know, but these business owners seem to. 67% of people use ChatGPT over Google. Now let me explain this. ChatGPT, it's an AI chatbot. Google, it's a search engine. The difference is that when you plug something into Google, it gives you multiple sites, multiple links that you can go to find the answer to your question. With ChatGPT, it just spits something out at you. It gives you an automatic response. And there is no way of telling if it is true or false. ChatGPT has been known to hallucinate, meaning that the information it gives may not all be true. And there is no failsafe to tell you if it is true or false. So who's to say the information you're given, it's accurate? And with all of these numbers, you can see that's why I'm saying AI is slowly taking over our world. Pretty scary, isn't it? So, artificial intelligence. People say that it's an incredible thing, that it's a good thing, it's a useful thing, and that we need it. And I agree with the fact that it is an incredible thing. It can be very helpful in our everyday lives. But in terms of saying it's a good thing, I might actually have to disagree. And here's my reasoning why. And most of this comes from what people are saying our future could look like. People speculate that within the next 10 or so years, AI will have completely taken over the job market, meaning that mundane or useless jobs will have been taken over by artificial intelligence. So think of cashiers or the attendant at the gas station or just anyone in general that use those kind of retail jobs in order to make a living. Imagine that, but done by AI. Now I'll tell you why that is beyond scary and horrifying, to be honest. If we cut down our essential workers, because that's what they are essential workers, we take them out of the work field and we replace them with AI. People say this is going to be good because we're going to be living in a utopian society in which everyone can focus on their hobbies and have more free time and be able to do things that they want to do that they don't have time because they have work. Okay? Well, if we take AI in the position of these workers, how are these workers going to get paid? What are they going to do to make a living? If they are not making a living, if they're not getting money from a job that they were doing, that they were replaced by, how are they going to eat? How are they going to afford to have a roof over their head? How are they going to do anything because they don't have money? And this is going to create not a utopian society, but a society in which essentially only the rich thrive. And maybe I'm getting too out of hand here, but if someone doesn't have money, they're not going to be able to eat, right? Because they can't afford food. And what's that going to lead to? Starvation. And the scariest thing is who owns these AIs? It's not us. It's not the common people. It's mega corporations. And mega corporations have always and will always do one thing, and that's focusing on the amount of profit they can get out of something. So corporations that own these AI are seeing, if I can replace these workers with someone I don't need to pay, I will, because that increases my profit. And so that's likely going to happen, which is a horrifying thought, just like I mentioned before. And the rich stay rich and the poor are just going to die. And that's going to be the honest truth. And hopefully I'm not getting too controversial or even political here, but that is the truth. That's the truth. And when you break it down, that is what's going to happen if nothing is done about it. If there's no policies put into act, if AI keeps progressing it the way that it is, this is likely a future that we're going to face. And that's scary to think about. I've been letting the idea of a future completely run by AI just get to my head. So I decided that if I was going to do this documentary, that I needed to narrow it down. So I chose something that I'm super passionate about, which is education. After all, they do say, children are our future. That was good, huh? So let's get down to the numbers. % of parents have concerns about harmful effects of AI in education. Only 10% of educators think teaching about AI should be a top priority in schools. 59% of high school students are worried about deepfakes and misinformation. Now, if you're unaware as to what a deepfake is, it's essentially taking someone's face without their permission and putting it on a video to make it seem like that person is doing something which they never did. So it's against their consent and it's something that can be very dangerous. 40% of high schoolers are concerned with risks that AI pose. 9 in 10 students want to learn more about AI. 86% of students use AI tools in general. That could be anything that has any form of artificial intelligence. 24% of college students use AI daily. 72% of students believe that universities should offer courses on AI to become more knowledgeable in it. And 100% of me is concerned for future generations. I'm not getting there. I wanted to know people's opinions on these issues. I needed to know that I wasn't the only one that thought this way, that I wasn't the only one that had concerns with the way that our future might look. So I set out on a quest to find and interview people that could give me their opinions. I'm talking about high school students, high school teachers, college professors, middle school teachers, every single person in the realm of education. And today, that quest has led me to the college campus of the University of Utah. What is your current opinion when it comes to the use of AI in education? And are you for or against it?
Well, I don't know that it matters if I'm for or against it, because it's going to happen anyway. I mean, it does. People use it all the time. My wife actually teaches English at the U now. But the way that she's done it is she's kind of made a study of AI. She's teaching a class on how you use like ChatGPT in your writing. So I think that there's ways to do it if you can especially get students to use it to enhance their writing rather than do their writing for them. I think one of the reasons why people would use it to have them write everything right now especially is because most of the professors aren't up to speed with it at all, don't use it, and can't recognize it. When you use it, it's very easy to recognize. There's turns of a phrase that she's shown me. Just the way that the thing is organized, it's very, because it doesn't create, it just recycles. So if you know what to look for, you can always tell something's been done with it. Whether or not you allow students to do that or not, to the extent of it, I think, is where it really comes in. Because we're heading towards a place where students are turning in AI-created stuff, and pretty soon the professors are going to have AI grade them, and nobody needs to be here anymore. I mean, even think about the AI-generated pictures. A year ago, everybody's hands were melting. You could always tell if somebody was AI, and now it's getting a lot harder. I mean, and I knew that was going to happen exponentially fast. It's not going to take 10 years. It's going to take months, weeks for that stuff to advance. The way that I run class is a little more old school, to where it's a lot harder for students to do that. Now, if I had an online course, like I used to teach Intro to Archaeology at Slick, I would imagine when I would have an essay assignment or something submitted online, I would just assume that everybody's going to use it at this point. So then I would have to decide on what level I would let them use it. Again, are they using it to enhance their writing, or are they using it to do the complete assignment? And if I think the complete assignment has been done and they've been put on notice to not do that, then I would probably, throw it out, but I would have to talk to the student about it and give them a chance to fix it on their own. And if they continue to do that, which with my wife's experience, they do, and you try to figure out what the ramification is and whether or not they get credit for the assignment. So,
what do you think the future of education will look like?
Well, I think it will have ultimately a negative impact overall. However, that being said, if you're interested in something and you want to do it, you wouldn't want AI to do it for you. Because if you're actually here to learn, now if you're here to get a piece of paper and move on with your life, then yeah, people are going to use that, and they're not going to get anything out of the education system. But frankly, what I've seen over the years is that's happening even without AI. Students expect to get A's when they do 10% of an assignment, and they'll call the department if they don't get it. And it's got to the point where professors are giving people passing grades for really not doing the work to begin with. So what does it matter if they've got AI doing it for them now? Because what I see is just basically student interest and engagement declining consistently, kind of across the boards, to where, when I went to school in the Stone Age, I really wanted to do this stuff, and I was excited about it, and I wanted to read the book that I got for class. Yeah, a lot of that stuff I didn't read till after I graduated because I never had time, so I would be skimming through it and actually sit down with the stuff. But I had a genuine interest in something. But I think what you have to ask yourself is, what's the utility of school in the first place? What are people getting out of it beyond checking the box? And if you can get that engagement, then you will have students that will respond. Even like with online, I used to be really anti about online classes. That nobody's getting anything out of that. So as things evolve, you have to stop trying to acting like you're doing it the old way with new technology and figure out how you do new stuff with new technology, I think. What's the goal of higher education? The goal of higher education should be, one, to train you maybe in a specific field that you're interested in, but in a liberal arts context, to give you that broad-based understanding of the world around you. But nowadays, when you do that, you get in trouble because you're not supposed to challenge students or what they think. What's the point of going to school if you're the same person walking out the door that you were when you came in? The idea of not changing and not evolving is counterintuitive to this entire process and what it's supposed to be.
I think AI is super valuable across the board in all sorts of different industries, including education. That being said, AI tends to follow a very strict algorithm with the questions it's answering and doesn't have a lot of room to take in the context clues to the question. And when it makes assumptions about the context, it's occasionally wrong. And so it's not super reliable, but it has proven to be pretty helpful. I use AI for assignments that I either just decide are not important and don't deserve my actual attention towards them. And I've also used AI to like help with science and math problems. It does a really good job at like describing how to do something. And so it's just an easier way to get information and get help than like going through Khan Academy and all these different videos where you have no idea what it's going to tell you, but just getting a specific answer from AI is pretty useful.
I find curious what you mentioned about saying assignments that you don't think necessarily like need your time. Explain that. What makes the decision in I'll use AI on this assignment because it's not important versus this one is important to me, so I'll do it all on my own.
Yeah, so I definitely believe AI like takes the brain power out of doing things. And so if it's an assignment that I just deem as busy work or as I know I'm confident in this skill, but it's going to take some amount of time to derive an answer, I'm going to use AI just like kickstart the motivation and get going with an assignment. I definitely think society as a whole has become very patience aversive, and we don't like to sit and think and feel pain anymore. And so when we have AI, it's just such an accessible thing to get answers to information. It's super easy to overuse. And while I think it's super beneficial, it completely takes out the value of education and learning and forming connections and thoughts, which is so crucial in the human experience. And there's definitely students that get lazy and refuse to sit in the discomfort of thinking on their own.
Do you have hope for future generations in terms of studying? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it is essential that human growth and like mental growth is of higher importance and priority in society than just mere like economic productivity, because we're not going to be able to race computers and we're not going to beat them. And so AI is only useful and only has a place if it is giving people more time to go and get those intellectual human experiences. Because if not, then we're just going to lose the human experience and people aren't going to learn and grow for themselves. And that's just going to turn into a whole downfall of society and mental health and all sorts of things.
So, what is your current opinion when it comes to the use of AI in education?
I think it's important. I think it's important to learn. It should be involved in classrooms, especially where it's used the most, like writing and for research. I think it definitely needs to be acknowledged as a tool that we can use. If there's a really long PDF and I can put that into Adobe Acrobat and get the AI assistant to find certain points in there, because just the regular search tool, it sucks. It can only find a certain letter or word. But if I want to find a certain concept, and it's a 20-page PDF, and I need to look at 5 or 6 different. I'm not going to read all of them, so I'll have the AI assistant find those those concepts, give me key points maybe, and where to find it, so that I'm not scrolling through 20 pages, but I can find it within a matter of like 5-10 seconds.
Sometimes like information that you have put in yourself, it's often like changed a little bit, or not necessarily 100% true, because it is an AI and it's just trying to do the purpose of what you said to make it seem more grammatical and professional. Have you noticed any difference in that? Like when you reread what the AI has written, you're like, well, that's not necessarily what I wrote, but it sounds more professional. What's your take on that?
Yeah, I definitely have noticed that. I think it adds a lot of fluff. It obviously hallucinates sometimes, which is getting better. And it can change the meaning of what you wrote. It can change even some of the facts just a little bit, to where they sound a little bit differently. They're phrased in a different manner. I think when I started using it, I wasn't catching on to it as much, but now I reread several times. And when I prompt, an AI chatbot, I will be as specific as possible, and not be lazy with the prompt. Like, I'll really think about it and ask it for very specific things for it to do, to make it sound the way I want to. After it gives it to me, I don't just copy and paste it, but I'll reread it and change a whole bunch of stuff. Sometimes I won't use it at all because it's not usable and it sucks. And it's better just have my own bad writing than to have the supposedly better AI generated writing. If you're already feeling lazy and you've procrastinated, you don't have a lot of time, you have something else going on, this is like an easy way to get a somewhat decent grade, maybe, I think. So yeah, I do think sometimes it can make students lazier, but it can be helpful.
Thanks for joining me.
Yeah, for sure.
So, a few questions for you today. Do you feel that students these days, let's say college students specifically, they are getting lazier and they don't want to put the work in?
I think students, or even like people in general, they are lazy. And so like you're gonna find like any way to like minimize the amount of work that you do. And I think that's like natural for people to do. And because of that, and because of the ease of AI, like there's like, okay, might as well just use this. And yeah, they are getting lazier. But like I don't see it as like I don't blame people for it. It's more of just like, I want to like do as little work as possible so that I have more time for myself or whatever. And I'm like, I don't want to do like my justification is like there's better things for me to do. Even if there isn't, like I'm just like, well, I can do this quicker. Why not just use AI?
You're studying computer science. Yeah. How often would you say, if you at all, have you used AI in doing, let's say, finals or homework assignments that you're giving?
A lot. Like it's like a lot of the time I just like before I even tackle my problem, I'm like like with homework assignments, I just like plug it into like ChatGPT or whatever, and like they give me like, even if it isn't the right answer, it gives me a direction I can go to.
Mm-hmm.
And so like it in terms of like actually assessing the problem myself, I'm like getting worse at, because I'm so reliant on just like, okay, let's see how like the mastermind like goes through with this, and like I'll try to follow his lead and go from there. But like even in terms of like quizzes and stuff, I'm like a lot of the time I'm like, if I'm just not feeling the class, I'm like, oh, whatever. I'm just like dump it into like Google or ChatGPT and get an answer. I'm like, okay, fine, this seems acceptable. I'm like plug that in. It is like it's not something I'd like to do. I want to be involved in my classes. I want to like enjoy what I'm doing, but sometimes like I don't have the time for it, or I think the class is just not engaging, or if it's so easy to get an answer off of ChatGPT, it's like, why not?
Do you think in the long run of things, like let's say 5-10 years from now, you're gonna look back and be like, I don't really know like I understand how to do these things because, you know, I graduated with it. I made an effort, but I don't 100% understand it. I'm always returning back to AI because of my reliance on it in college.
I think there's gonna be a roadblock for a lot of people in terms of that, like when they first get into industry, of just like, yeah, I'm like completely lost, and like even AI to a certain point, it hits a wall somewhere, and like there's nowhere you can really go with it. It is gonna be tough, maybe tougher than like previous generations, but like I think it is inevitable. You know, like once you get to a certain point, you have to like spend more time into like the field that you're like looking into. It's gonna be super specific. It's gonna be niche. But there's also gonna be a lot of room for like human opinion where you can differ on different things. You can have different opinions. You can have different ideas, and I think that subjective idea part is just something that I don't think AI can capture. Like as things get more technologically advanced, I think we as a people should lean into humanity more.
My name's Emily Williamson. I'm a junior and I'm a theater major.
All right, Emily, what is your current opinion when it comes to the use of AI in education?
Yeah, I think that a lot of professors and also students, like myself, I think it's a little bit scary thinking about, I don't know, like the reach that AI is starting to have in a lot of things that we're doing. But I also kind of think that it reminds me a little bit of conversations I've had with like, I feel like whenever new like technological advances come, people are always a little bit freaked out about it. So I'm a little bit like, is that just happening now and we're having trouble with like the switch and the advancements? Or is it that it is crossing a line? I don't know, but I kind of think that like when you have a tool that you can use to help you, it's kind of nice to explore like the options and how you can use it, but also solely relying on AI for a degree you're supposed to get like for yourself. That is something that can be a little bit, you know, scary to think about, or I guess just like hopefully people aren't fully doing that. But since most of my homework and assignments are like performance based things, it's a little bit hard to use AI to help me. So for the few writing assignments that I have, I'll usually use it to help me stop like procrastinating and like I really need to get like how do I connect these ideas or what have other people found research on in these topics, and I'll look up like, you know, show me 5 articles of da-da-da. But something that I also think about is like when professors will kind of push too hard of like, and you can never use AI for this, and I'll be, you know, like you'll be thrown out if you use AI, and it's just like, well, I a little bit more like the approach where professors say like, hey, on this assignment you can use AI, I just want you to tell me if you did.
Going back to your major, theater, it's in the arts, right? It's performing arts. What is your opinion about AI and art?
One time we had a super long conversation because there's talk that people will use AI to essentially like for extras. Usually if they have extras in the background, you need to pay those people. But that they would like take a scan of your face and pay for that once, and then they wouldn't need you again because they just use AI to kind of just put you into the background of things. So essentially that they just didn't have to pay people as much. And things like that are a little bit scary to hear because that's how, I mean, not everybody, but that's how a lot of people kind of start getting into sometimes the film industry and anything like that. It's just a good in. Art is something that isn't quite like a mathematical equation. Like you can kind of say, I created this and it's art, and it's okay if you don't like it, but you can't tell me that it's not art. And I kind of agree with that, but then I also get so aggravated when people are like, I'm an AI artist. Because usually it's just stealing from people's work, and that's a huge thing in the art community. Like, you can't steal people's artwork and not credit them. I don't know, I feel like you can't translate the human experience. Like, you can try to, I feel like you can try to code something to feel emotion and be creative, but I don't think you can translate it. And I think people can make an argument that you could, but I don't know, there's a chance I'm just not seeing it from that perspective.
I'm currently standing in front of the school that I went to for 4 years during my high school career. Now, since graduating, I've kept in contact with some of the teachers that I befriended. They were incredible to me. I learned amazing things from them. And so I reached out to them because I'm curious to know what their thoughts on AI in education today are. So let's find out.
Hi, my name's Zach Baggett. I'm a visual art teacher at Harriman High. I have a master's degree in education and a bachelor's in visual art education from the University of Utah.
So, Mr. Baggett, what is your current opinion when it comes to the use of AI in education, and are you for or against it?
I think that AI is incredible and extremely powerful and so unpredictable. In recent years, I've been following more and more advancements in AI, particularly AI that's related to my field of study, the visual arts. And a decade ago, I was largely unimpressed with what AI was capable of. It really wasn't until about 3 years ago when a couple of programs came out, it was DALL-E version 3 and Midjourney, that I started looking at what it was capable of doing, and I had to retract some of my previous statements about what I thought AI was going to be capable of. And frankly, I was just floored. It became an obsession, really, for a little while. I toyed around with some of these open source AI programs to figure out what they were capable of, and honestly went slack-jawed. Like, I could not believe what the AI could do. Now, that is not to say that it is perfect or indistinguishable from the human hand, but I honestly was dumbfounded by how much advancement had happened at such an accelerated rate. In terms of education, it makes me pause. There's a line in Jurassic Park, which I love. It's a film I love. I like the book a lot too. But there's a line in the movie when paleontologists are visiting Jurassic Park, and the character Grant says, I think I'm out of a job. And the response is, don't you mean extinct?
We're out of a job. Don't you mean extinct?
And with some of the new AI capabilities, that's honestly how I felt about my profession, about the things that I do. I'd spent well over a decade refining skills in visual communication, in drawing and painting specifically. And I was watching computer programs with similar prompts and with similar processes do incredible things at a far accelerated rate as to what I could do. Does that mean I think it's perfect? No. Does that mean that I think it replaces what a human can do? No. But that was the turning point for me in realizing I needed to pay attention to this thing. Because I thought my field of study was the safest of any of the fields of study because it's so tactile and it requires thousands of decisions to make a painting. In my classroom, most of the projects are based off of making imagery, drawings and paintings. There's a lot less writing. And so my battle is different than I think a lot of other educators where writing and essays are a fundamental part of their class. But for me, it is a talking point for discussion and for critical analysis. And I like to hear the students' different opinions on what they think of it. And to hear their differences of points of view. I've had students express like, oh, this is no big deal. We see stuff like this all the time. But in my generation, unheard of. I mean, it's absolutely unheard of to have artificial intelligence making decisions like this. Pre-programmed things, absolutely. That's been in my life my whole life, but computers are operating differently now. So I see it as this revolutionary, huge change with unimaginable outcomes, possibly for good, possibly for other purposes. But for students, it's interesting to hear their take on it because they've already been inundated with it in so many ways.
Visual arts is still in the world of education. And so what are your concerns for the future of education when it comes to AI?
In a nutshell, I'm very, very, very concerned. Like I said, the tech is amazing, but I think people don't have a full understanding of what they're sacrificing every time we use technology like this. Authenticity is really big, and as an art maker, right, we're pretty big on the idea that I can make something original and unique, and that I am taking different elements, but I am the one making the decisions as to how these things come together. AI can do wonderful drawings and paintings, but if you're going to use text prompts to make a picture, for example, you relinquish almost all control as to what's actually happening in that image. And so it becomes super problematic. So a couple of years back, there was a state art competition, and artists submitted paintings, digital photography, and that. The state winner of a particular competition was an AI piece. It hadn't been disclosed that it was an AI piece beforehand. It also didn't disqualify them, but it did cause a spark and an uproar as to whether this was legitimate or not. And I think that's maybe a side conversation, but it ties into my point that authenticity matters. Okay? Intellectual property, the idea that I am coming up with an idea and I am writing my own ideas and I am synthesizing my ideas based off of the information that I'm given, that's crucial to quality education. If you want to learn how to critically analyze and to be a creator, then you need to be able to do those things. The problem that I'm seeing more and more is that people, young people, and also people in positions of authority and power are utilizing these powerful tools like chat and other sources to do the work for them, all of it. Often, I hear students talking about working on projects in somebody else's class, and the amount of efforts put in is zero. I'll hear them make statements like, we'll just throw it in chat. Fundamentally, things like chat are great for idea generation, quick research, but I am seeing it very, very quickly replacing true academic growth. And as an educator, I am terrified, absolutely terrified. Coupled with shortened attention spans, with other, what I believe short form media is doing to the neurological development of our young people, you couple that with the ease of using artificial intelligence, and I am very, very concerned about our future workforce and our future populace in terms of being well educated and prepared for the challenges that surely we will all face. As an educator, one of my foremost goals is to help young people to be prepared for the difficulties of life. So I'm an art teacher, but I tell my art students often that my goal is not to make more artists. My goal is to help young people develop the skills they need to be problem solvers. We need problem solvers. That's a huge concern for me because I know that in order to learn very technical skills, a substantial amount of time is required. Talk about the 10,000 hour rule, which is just kind of a rule of thumb that if you want to get really good at something, professional level, you need to commit at least 10,000 hours to dedicated study of that thing. Not repetitious study of the same thing over and over again, but dedicated study of that thing, whether that's a language or a musical instrument or an athletic sport or a particular skill set, even a tech skill set, drawing, plumbing, mechanics, and on and on and on. I am very, very concerned that our young generation, though brilliant and so full of life and energy and character, lack the self-motivation to persist through things that are challenging, through things that they are not currently good at, to gain the necessary experience to get good at those things. And this is a conversation I do have with my classes in a more open-ended way, but I want my students to understand from my point of view, as an artist in a professional realm, as someone who spent decades studying how to be an artist, AI threatens the thing that I am professional at, that I spent decades studying. And I thought my job was safe from that. AI continues to advance. And I truly believe that it's going to be as revolutionary as other huge moments in history, like the Gutenberg press and the internal combustion engine, in terms of what it's going to do economically on a global scale. And if people continue to choose the mediocre path, the path of least resistance, then eventually my fear is that we will have an unskilled workforce, and that we will have AI programming that ultimately could replace labor positions. So what we talk about with my students in my class is, what are you going to get good at? What are you passionate about? What do you want to make your life's purpose? Because mediocrity is not going to cut it. You're going to have to compete with not just other people like I did. You're going to have to compete with other people and whatever advancements AI is going to take in the coming decades. And that's hard to even imagine with how fast its capabilities are accelerating.
I'm Erica Plummer. I teach creative writing, 9th graders, and an IB Lang and Lit course. Anytime you're working with students, it's a cat and mouse game of trying to get them to be honest, not cheat. I mean, for me, the goal of education is to create students who are critical thinkers and have some level of literacy. And because I teach so many ESL students, the problem is they often just cannot couch that in this academic language. And so the tempting part of AI is to say, this is a really good scaffold for a certain type of kid who might need just to understand better how sentences are constructed. And in our constant cat and mouse game, to be honest about whether they've done their reading, I mean, that students will use AI for everything. Like, even if they know the answers, they'll still use it. They don't trust themselves. And I think that's what makes me sort of sad when they're using AI, is that often it comes from some sort of internal, I don't have what it takes to do this, and when actually they do. We just read Of Mice and Men, and I have very simple questions for them. I basically told them all of the answers to the questions right before the test. I give them the test, and I can tell immediately that most of the class, they don't have ChatGPT here, but they could still ask Google a question and it comes up with the artificial intelligence answer. And so I just had to change my test. I now program it in Canvas that they have 15 seconds to answer a question, and then it's dead. And then they go on to the next question, and they might have a total of a minute or 2 minutes to do it. So, I mean, we're finding our way as teachers, but also that's really exhausting as a teacher to constantly be just like trying to outsmart the kids who are so smart. Of course, students overestimate what AI can do. Like, I teach creative writing, and I'll give them any kind of prompt, or they have to write this type of poem. And they'll put it into AI, and they'll turn it in. And I think in their mind, like, this is a really great poem. Like, they just wrote me this poem that has a pentameter, and it's controlled, and it has ABAB rhyme schemes. But the poem has no voice. The poem has no, like, exciting shift of moments. It has no surprise. There's no surprise in the language. I started to learn that an AI poem will always rhyme flight with sight. So there's these keys in which I can see really closely. But beyond that, like, a kid would never write the poems that they're giving me. And again, it makes me just so sad because even their worst poem, the worst poem a kid could write, is better than that AI poem. It has more energy, more intrigue than anything that they can do from AI.
What do you think the future of education will look like with this constant, almost not being able to escape it now?
I think the future of education is going to be far less on computers. I mean, most of the teachers that I talk to are going to paper and pen. This school has a complete ban on phones. They can't have their phone on their body at all during class. It has to be powered off if they do. The official rule at the district is any use of AI is cheating. However, there's this little caveat, which is that if they cite it, then it's okay. I think we're stupid to think that kids aren't going to use this when we ourselves are using this as well. Cheating wastes all of our time. I mean, like, you may as well just go get a job because the money is going to be more worth your while than if you just come to school all day and we just cheat through life. I asked my students to write a paper on their experience as readers. That's a really easy assignment. And on that, I wasn't grading for grammar. I just wanted to know, how often have you read? What were your positive reading experiences? What were your negative reading experiences? And the kid that wrote about working to teach her dad how to read and the details of that, that's a far better paper than anything that AI can write.
What is your current opinion on education?
That it could be good and bad.
Explain what aspects are good and what aspects are bad.
Bad because in some ways it doesn't help you, but it good in some ways because it does.
Do you have favorite subjects in school?
No, not at the moment.
What's your favorite part of going to school?
Just looking at my friends and just being with them.
So what is your view on artificial intelligence in education today?
I feel like it's used more to like cheat, more than like what's more intended for it.
What is your current opinion on education today?
It's stupid.
Explain that. What do you think makes it stupid?
It's just like it's more complicated.
It's complicated.
It's more complicated than it was. Because my parents can't even do the math that they're teaching us now.
So would you say you're for or against using AIs such as ChatGPT in school? For? Have you ever used AI to finish an assignment?
Yeah, actually last night.
Last night?
Yeah.
What assignment was it for?
It was for US history.
Have you ever used AI to help you with assignments?
Yeah.
Yeah? Which assignments were they?
I don't remember. Back in like 5th grade.
In 5th grade?
Yeah.
So you've had access to artificial intelligence for a while now.
Yeah. I think it's going to make life more convenient.
Now the last person I'm going to interview is my friend named Sai, who I met in my freshman year of college, who's now a teacher himself.
As a middle school teacher, one of the things I've noticed is that the students that I teach have had a phone in their hands since they were little kids. And so whenever these kids could have a problem, they can search up and have the answer immediately. I feel like it's not just AI, but also phones and internet usage that can cause students to learn to not struggle through hard things that everyone has to face. So I don't believe that it makes them lazier because they still care about what they're doing, but they're enabled. They have this tool that doesn't allow them to push through the pain of learning sometimes, or the pain of thinking a new idea, because they have a service that can generate that idea for them. So I think restricting the access to the students using AI, it should be more restricted for students using AI, and there should be restrictions for their phone and internet use, because otherwise it doesn't let them struggle to learn. And the struggling is where they learn the most. In middle school, it might not affect them as much, but then once they become a high school student, and then especially a college student, these are habits that they'll have for life.
What is your outlook on the future? Do you have hope for future generations at all?
Let me think about this one. My concern for the future is that I think as humans, we are naturally greedy. So if we can take more of something, then we'll take as much as we can. If we have an available amount of natural resources on this earth, and we can take more of it than less of it, we're gonna take more of it just because it'll help us right now. So we think about the short term much more than the long term. And I think this also connects back to AI, where it can serve us very well in the short term, but I think that the short term advantages that it has, it's gonna be used for replacing deeper human instincts. I like AI for work, and I like it as a tool. I don't like it as a replacement, and I don't like it as a substitute at all for emotional connecting or other basic human instincts, if that makes sense.
I want to make it clear that I understand how lucky I am to be living in this time with such incredible and helpful tools. But at a point, if that tool does all the work for you, you are not learning. Part of what makes education special is that you are learning something for yourself, and hopefully it's something that you want to be learning. It's okay to fail 1,000,000 times. The point is that you learn from that, you grow, you get better, and that's the whole purpose of it. Using AI to write a paper, to make a song, or to film a movie doesn't teach you anything about those things. Generative AI is only about the end product, not about the learning process. What's so rewarding about education is that feeling of figuring it out by yourself. And I understand shortcuts are tempting, but what's the rush? You should be proud of your learning and take education into your own hands, because at the end of the day, I hope you're doing it for you.